organization is interesting? Okay, sustainability and business.
But I came here as a member of Indonesian Student Association in Thailand, just like a voluntary organization under Indonesian Embassy. And then I just want to know like how to like make the movement in voluntary. It's like student how to make their mindset to be like what we call it practice in Indonesia.
Okay.
My name is Joanne. I'm studying here at Jua, not Sasin, but under graduate school. I'm doing a doctoral thesis on sustainability, so it's regarding using climate change.
Okay.
So actually, I attended one of your EFA ESD workshop with UNESCO before.
Education for all and education for sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of like my overall interest is still in that field, but specifically right now, focus on climate change.
Good morning, I'm Methawi, and I'm a PhD student studying sustainability. My research is sustainability and business, so I'm hoping to get something from this question.
I hope to.
Good morning, my name is Kritika. I'm working in the HR field, and now my company is interested and in the practice of the human development and interested in the sustainability. That's why my company.
Okay.
My name is Grisada Different. It's like Grika and Grisada. You can call me Grace for short. I'm working with the Secretary of Operation and Study Partners. I'm interested in this subject about how to create mindset and with innovation.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikon Pan. You can call me Nick. I come from Solek. We are the investor for the infrastructure and as well as renewable energy infrastructure like wind, solar. And my role in the organization is I'm an ESG specialist in the organization that also taking care of the CSR activities as well. So I think that my objective to come here is actually to listen and to open myself to more opinions, more idea of the people that what other do and what other think. I think it's important for me to just shape my program in my company.
Hi, I'm Sudara Gosu from Plant Accumulated Foundation. I'm here because I'm a robot before and Dr. Michael said, come on, so let's join this and maybe if you find this interesting, he will register for the full course. And yeah, so I'm here to open my mind because sustainability, we talk a lot about that, but when matched with the mindset, it's going to be something interesting.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dino. I'm a trader in Thailand. I'm with a business management company, and I'm doing some GIS mapping and also forest management consultancy. So I'm here because I was invited by Steele. But anyway, we are doing some kind of business checks into accounts such as legality and environmental sustainability. So we are looking forward to receiving some kind of certification for our business application like FSC. So for that we need to learn new ideas. We try to look for the ideas and concepts. Looking forward to using these ideas in our business.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael. I do consulting in natural resources management and environmental management, and I'm here today because I'm interested in broadening my consulting base from that quite specialised area to sustainability in a more broad corporate setting.
Okay, thank you. So nice to have you. Glad you dedicate a couple hours of your day. I know you're all busy, so I hope you do get something that you want out of here. You can take away, chew on a little bit, pass to your colleagues, talk, think about how you could use some of the things that we share today. So this is called a mini workshop. So it's not just listening. You'll be asked to actually think and discuss a little bit and have a little hands-on. Okay, using the tools that I would like to introduce to you for helping to build or embed sustainability within a company, and not just in a department, so to speak. Okay. Everyone used the word sustainability already. I think it's still, there's a lot of problem with that word. I don't know if you agree. Like, really, what is it? If you talk to most people, they don't even know what it is. You know, in consulting, we think, oh, everyone, you get in these circles, right? Circles of jargon, circles of your expertise, and you think, oh, everyone, this is like mainstream. Once you step out of that little circle, you're like, what? CSR? I don't even know what that is. Sustainability is very much similar. I don't know if you find that true. Or it's like sustainability, all environment. Right? It's about environment. Yes, that's one component. Or it's the same as CSR. Okay, so there's a lot of ambiguity on sustainability, and because of that, there's a lot of maybe appropriation, misappropriation of the word sustainable. You know, so that's one of the biggest challenges we have before you can think about embedding sustainability. You don't want to embed the wrong idea, for sure. Okay, so this is always our challenge, but it's also something that I think. The tools and the framework that I will share with you today works to overcome, is that misunderstanding of what this term really means, especially for business. Okay. So our talk today and our mini workshop is about embedding, which is a bit different concept than latching on, or bolting on, which I'll use later. Embedding is like full integration, right? Okay, mindset is here, right? And that affects everything, like how we see the world, our values, and the culture, and everything. So it's how do you get this understanding, the values and practice of sustainability becomes a habit of mind, in a sense, which will really influence everything that a company does if we're talking employee base. And I'm going to argue a little bit because we don't have a huge amount of time that it will produce best practice. It will stimulate innovation, increase performance, especially in the current climate of the world right now with the existing challenges and trends. And resilience for your company. Resilience, everyone is comfortable with the word resilience, what it means to be resilient, to be able to take a shock or some sort of hit, but also your ability to bounce back quickly and maybe even more robustly. Yeah. Okay, so my name is Robert Steele, by the way, and I have a company based here in Thailand since 2005 called Systainability Asia. So it's a little hybrid word on sustainability, emphasizing the importance of systems thinking. Okay, more including sustainability. I'm an affiliate since about 2002 with Atkinson Group, which is a worldwide network and a consulting group based in Sweden that works on advancing sustainability in all areas, in communities, with governments, with business. Right? Some of the things that we do is we do a lot of training, but we also do consulting and research as well. This is just kind of the global spread of Atkinson Group, some of the people that we work with out here. Okay, so for this mini workshop, I have to be very cognizant of time, because I want about an hour for the hands-on part. Okay, there's 4 parts. Exploring, first of all, just kind of exploring what we mean by embedded sustainability. And kind of the why, the what, and start to go into the how. The how is really what I want to introduce in terms of the tools that we have to offer that we use with companies. We call the accelerator framework. Okay, and then you'll get a taste of that. Just chin, mannequin Taiwan. Okay, and then what you could expect if you were interested to go for a full training. So exploring this concept, and we'll do some little timeouts to process as well during the 2 hours here, hour and 45 minutes we have left. So first of all, just talking about the trends, major market forces I think that are acting on companies right now, and I see this coming from 3 areas, which is actually coming from a very well-known and respected academic by the name of Nadia. I can't pronounce her last name. She's from Slovakia. Her and Chris Laszlo have written several books together. She's a contributor to Green Biz, which is a blog and newsletter. But I agree with them that they see there's 3 major market forces that are affecting business value. It used to be called shareholder value. And now we're arguing that stakeholder value in the age of CSR and the age of these others trends is really what business value is, balancing shareholder and stakeholder value. So the first trend is declining resources. Anyone disagree that there maybe is this emerging trend of things are getting scarcer? Raw materials, water, forest, food security, even though probably we have enough food to feed the world, right? Because we throw away so much. But research actually shows that since 1950 to mid-2000, our food has lost like 6% protein, 20% vitamin C, riboflavins, I think it's something like 15%. So as our food is progressing, it's losing its nutritional value. Okay? So in a sense, we are losing food security in that way. We know species are declining. Okay? Energy is a bottleneck. Okay, I know you're working on trying to, over here, to make that funnel bigger, right? Renewable energy. Someone over here. Right here. Yes, big one, right? Yeah. All right, so declining resources definitely going to affect business. I think business, you talk about 3 C's. You've got your customer, capital, and your competition. Those things you worry about, right? You're successful if you meet the needs of your customer, right? Capital lubricates those wheels, allow you to do that. And then you need a competitive response. If you have all 3 of those, but you have a supply chain disruption, too bad, right? You've got good product, you have capital, but and you're competitive, you differentiate, but you have no water to go in your factory. Okay, you're working on technology and there's no rare earth minerals available. Then you're unsustainable. You're not doing business. The second one is this radical transparency idea. Right now, I think there's an argument to say that you don't choose now to be transparent as a company. You don't have a choice because of technology. Okay? Technology and connectivity and internet and all of this stuff has really opened up you can't hide anything. So these people, and it's also scale, they're growing in number, and they have this access to this connectivity. But it's not like, it's also a changing climate in terms of this. In terms of NGOs, there's now more partnership with companies, right? It's not adversarial so much, us versus them anymore. It's really a lot more collaborative. Okay? So this is really another market force that we have to deal with. Third one is your shareholders. Rising expectations, okay? Whether it's regulators, enforcement of policy, laws, investors who are looking at risk, okay? And sustainability happens to be a risk now. And there's many of the big share indexes, stock indexes, have a sustainability portfolio, right? Employees know their rights. There's more frameworks available to help them address their rights, okay? And well-being is, and safety, bigger issues now. And of course, customers expect more. And they don't want it at a premium product price. You say, okay, you can buy green, but you pay 3 times more. But it's actually not about green, it's about better. Healthier product, higher quality, longer lasting, okay, and doesn't want to trash the environment. So it's not just green, it's just better, okay, better product. So these are expectations. These are the 3 forces. So the question is, how should business respond to handle these trends and changes in our climate over the last, I think really it's accelerated the last 15 years. Okay? What is the best strategy for business? Well, just some rules to guide us, to think about. I would say that a business or an organization or a community or a society will be sustainable if, these are big general rules, you understand your systems and the systems which you're embedded in. You know what I mean by system? Like the boundaries, all the variables, and how they work together. And we have an understanding of things not as fragmented pieces, but as a holistic, integrative, dynamic, always changing system. Okay? So that's one rule to go by. You need to start thinking in systems, not linearly. Close the circle. Okay? 2, you understand and account for limits, especially on resources. What are the physical and biological limits that we operate? And the dynamics between those limits. And it's not just environmental limits, it's patience of community, the limits of your employees in terms of how much time they're going to be able to spend at work, and how much time they want in family and free time, or personal development time. Third, a sustainable entity looks and responds to these long-term trends, doesn't ignore them, does not put your head in the sand. And that these trends that affect its ability to meet its goals. Fourth, a sustainable entity will change internally to take advantage, that's the key term, of these external conditions. You can deny them or you can see them as an opportunity for business. Okay? And fifth is resilient, this word resilient. There's always going to be shocks, right? There's always going to be things we cannot predict. Whether it's Ebola, or it's an earthquake with a tsunami, or it's climate disruption that causes massive drought or flood, and whatever it might be. These things, how can we bounce back? How can we prepare? Okay. And 6, you're not going to be sustainable if you undermine the conditions of your own success. Whatever business or community you're in, if you take away the base of what makes you successful, if it's goodwill, it's a resource base, it's your license to operate in the community, you're gone. Okay? So it's really a balancing act. I think a sustainable corporation needs to think about the human sustainability element and the ecological. Because nature collapses, everything will collapse. How many of you do not depend on nature for your business products or services? Anyone here? You could like cut nature off and we're fine. You guys? No. So we all depend on nature. So if it's gone, or SL, how do you say it? Yeah. SOL. Okay, so the question is, I think we can agree that this is important, right? That's why you're here anyway. Sustainability is intriguing and we think it's important. But what type of sustainability are we talking about? Is it something we just attach because everyone else is doing it? Like a bolt-on, okay, I want a new muffler on my car, a new spoiler on my car to make it look cool, right? Everyone's going, wow, you have a nice car. All right, is it bolt-on like that? Are we talking about really reworking the whole car engine so it's more efficient, you know, and it's running faster, cleaner, and looks cool? Okay, so what is the difference between embedded and bolt-on? When we talk about embedded, it's really about an integration, as some of you mentioned, this holistic integration of not just the environment, but well-being aspect, financial governance, social values into the core business. It cannot be we do CSR, we have a CSR person, it's just philanthropy. Okay, sustainability is just that. But no one in the company, nothing else is aligned with it. Okay, that's not embedded. Okay, and it's about this balancing again of shareholder value versus and stakeholder value now, not just shareholder value. Okay, and so this really requires a shift across every dimension of the company. Essentially, what people call the DNA, right? If you want to just, I won't go through all of this, and whoever would like a copy of this presentation, I think we can give you a soft copy PDF. Is it okay? Yeah. So you can see some of the differences comparatively of bolt-on sustainability with what we call embedded. So, I mean, value chain is one, you're only looking at your own activities. Whereas embedded, you're managed across the service or product lifecycle chain. When you think of a case of why this is important, think of Apple and Foxconn. You've heard of these two companies, obviously, Apple. Foxconn, you know Foxconn? Chinese, Taiwanese company, operated in China. Factories that are massive city scale, 50,000 employees or more. They make the iPhones. They make for other companies as well. They're not owned by Apple, they're in the supply chain. 2 years ago, 19 people, employees from this company committed suicide. 19, 1 year, jumping off the dormitory. So Apple said, that's not our problem. And, you know, the media found out they're making iPhones. That's not our company, you know. Foxconn, what was their reaction? We're going to put nets around the dormitory. Keep you, if you jump, you won't die. It's like, duh. You think if I want to kill myself, there's only one way. Right? It's like trying to put a band-aid to stop a behavior, but not really what is at the root. And Apple saying that they had no responsibility, they got a lot of bad press until they said, no, okay, sorry, we would need to intervene and accept that. So that's embedded. You have to understand that. Okay. So just really quickly on that. So it really requires developing a sustainability mindset throughout the company's workforce. And what do we mean by mindset? Just to maybe review this. It's a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines our behavior. Okay? Our outlook and our mental attitude toward anything, toward our work, toward our goals. Now I have a 5-minute video to really, I think it epitomizes what we're talking about in a corporate way. This is 5 minutes. I think you'll see it. I call it Love on the Factory Floor. Anyone have seen this clip before?
I think I'm also very, very proud that the business case for sustainability has emerged very clearly.
Let's stop for 1 second, because I didn't introduce. This is Ray Anderson. He's passed away several years ago. He's the president and founder of a carpet company, used to be a carpet company, called Interface Carpets, based in Atlanta, Georgia, but a multinational private company. Okay, they have a factory here in Bang Na.
We're going to visit in December.
Yeah. It's now Interface turned around and changed his whole business model in 1995. Okay? Because Ray Anderson had this like epiphany of why he needs to change his business model. So they went from selling carpets to selling flooring services. They don't sell you a carpet anymore. They lease you a carpet maintenance service contract, and they take it all back. So you're not putting it, and it's all going back into the production line. So it's a circular economy. All right. They have a mission zero. This company will need zero waste by 2020. No waste whatsoever, and no emissions. Carbon neutral. They are now at 70% of that goal. Okay. They call it mission zero. So that's who he is. He's passed away several years ago, but he's kind of has been sort of this icon of what this corporate sustainability is all about and how you can make profit. So this company, I think, was a multi-million-dollar company when they decided to do this. This company is currently valued at $1.5 billion US by changing this business model. They made more money, become richer. So that's the point. Sustainability is about becoming rich. It's not about not being rich.
No, it demonstrates our costs are down, not up. So that dispels a myth and exposes a false choice between the environment and the economy. Not so. You can do both and. Our products. But through the inspiration of biomimicry and the wellspring of innovation that has come out of the idea of sustainable design, the lens of sustainable design, has made our products better than ever. And then, as I've said so many times, the goodwill of the marketplace is astonishing. There is no amount of slick advertising at any cost that we could have done that would have created the goodwill that this effort has created. I mean, you're talking about authenticity at its very, very best. This is a better way to make a bigger profit. And we had a more legitimate one at that. It's coming not at the expense of future generations and not at the expense of the earth. You know, ultimately, there's no doubt that at some point I have to slow down. someday. I have to be thinking ahead of that day when I can no longer do this. But in the meantime, we have this thing called RAISE that is the consulting arm of the company that we created to respond when other companies ask us, how do you do this? And a wonderful anecdote around that. One of Jim Hartsfeld, who runs RAISE, one of his first clients was a big multinational food company that sent 15 people to LaGrange, Georgia, top management people, one woman in the group, and she was head of global engineering. This woman did not want to be there. She did not understand why they would come to a carpet mill in Georgia, of all places, of all things, to learn about sustainability. What could they possibly learn from us? So she didn't want to be there, and she's skeptical about the whole thing. So the first half of the morning that they're together, she's obstructive and challenging everything. And then the mid-morning break comes, and to get to the ladies' room, she has to actually go through the factory. They're in this conference room out of the factory. So on the way to the ladies' room, go back, I don't know where, she encounters James Weisner, fork truck driver, on the factory floor with this big roll of carpet on this fork truck. And she stops him. And she says, what do you do here? Sort of in that tone of voice. And James, bless his heart, said, ma'am, I come to work every day to help save the earth. She was just stunned by that. So she started drawing him out. What do you mean? And finally, after a couple of minutes, he said, ma'am, I don't want to be rude, but if I don't get this roll of carpet to that machine in the next minute, our waste and emissions are going out of control. I gotta go. She came back to that meeting a visibly different person. She sat there very quietly, in total contrast to the way she had been before. And then after a while, she started challenging her people. Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And then she told the story of her encounter on the factory floor. And she said, I've never seen anything like it. To demonstrate the alignment in the company from the very top of an organization clear to the factory floor. She says, there's only one word I can think of that describes it. And it is love. Love on the factory floor as we re-examine the progress we've made in retrospect, looking back, you can see things that you didn't see so clearly looking forward, before the fact. But one of the things that's really clear is that you unleash the creativity of an organization when you hold up a vision that is so outrageous that it takes the breath away. When people are gasping, what did he say? And when the vision is that ambitious, it's taking us places we never would have dreamed of. We've just begun. But remember the Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I'll see you along the way, and we'll do this together because it's the right thing to do.
Maybe just open it up to any comments or reflections so far from what we've brought up. Any experiences or anything that you would like to share?
Because I always do this kind of thing all the time because I'm working with environment and I need to convince people to love nature, to plant trees. It's not only just a fun activity, but I have to let them know and learn the whole process. Not just like plant a tree, take a photo of the owner. So they convinced to learn from since the beginning, and I let them walk along the nature trail. So you cannot build this kind of thing like love in short term. So that means you need some tools and techniques to let them appreciate it and feel love.
Yeah, so it's a continuing learning process.
Yeah.
Experience process. You have to imbue it, you have to connect.
You have to make people feel good.
Yeah, they have to feel relevant and it has a value to them.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, now let's move on. Just to reinforce the systems aspect of this. Embedded sustainability, some key points. I would argue that it is the future of business. Maybe we won't call it sustainability anymore. It would just be business. Okay? Because it won't be embedded, it won't be like, we use the word sustainability. But if a business is not doing those things that are required under right now what we call sustainability, we're probably not going to be in business. Okay? What that will assure once sustainability is embedded into the company's DNA, into the value system, into the core business functions and products, is this new behaviors and new creativity, new innovation, new business models, and new performance outcomes. Okay, so you can see what we call the system iceberg. The top of the iceberg is what people see. Your market share, your products, outcomes, you produce pollution, or if you have strike in your workforce, people see that. Underneath that is the patterns of behavior, things building up, trends, right, that lead to a behavior outcome. What produces and generates behavior response? Your structure and your system, how your company is set up. It's system with the outside world, the dynamics. Below that is the vision or the worldview of the corporate leaders, CEO, president, the board. Okay, and what's influencing their worldview and vision is their mindset. And it's the same from vertical down to the factory floor. Mindset. So, embedding sustainability will require that we change systems. You can't change behavior. The system is still the same. You can put up nets around your dormitories, but they're not going to stop people who are unhappy and want to kill themselves because they're working 16, 18 hours a day. They're migrant laborers. They never see their family. Okay? You need to change the system. And the whole system approach to sustainability requires a shift and a change in the mindsets of leaders and employees. Okay? Not just be at the top. So the crux of the challenge, and I think Sue brought this up, is the how. You need tools. And there's lots of tools, not just one silver bullet. It's a combination. But what I want to introduce you and give you a little taste of is a set of tools that advocacy group that we use with companies to help generate and help create the platform for starting this journey of embedding sustainability into mindset, into the values and beliefs of the workforce. So we call this the accelerator, the whole toolkit. Why? Because we think it's a proven process that mainstreams what we're talking about in relevant, easy terms, builds a sense of team, and empowers a lot more people than just the sustainability manager or the CSR director. Okay? So it's really about accelerating change, accelerating learning, and making that more effective and move more quickly. So we have something, and excuse the acronym now, it's unfortunate, but our acronym is called the ISIS method. Okay? You know, it's been in the news.
Easy to remember.
But, yeah. But it's our method of doing this. Okay? It's built from a lot of work, capacity building underneath. You have to do this first. You can't just jump into doing the ISIS method. People don't understand systems. They don't know what sustainability is, and they don't have vision and defined operating definition of sustainability in their situation, right? In their company, in their community. You have to have that first, capacity. Then we have the steps. You need to assess, you need to have a baseline to start with. What are our limits? What do we have? What are the trends that we need to pay attention to? Then you need to understand that those trends and those limits, those indicators, don't sit alone. They don't act in a vacuum. They're influenced by the other indicators, the other trends. So we need to understand in a systems way the dynamics, the cause and effect, flows of information, decision controls, and how that actually loops around in what we call feedback loop. Okay. Not a linear process. Once we have a better understanding of that, we're looking at places where we can intervene based on our understanding of the system to change dynamics that are not going the way we want them to go. Right? There's different types of feedback. There's what we call a reinforcing feedback. Right? We call sometimes a vicious cycle. Like things keep getting worse and worse and worse, whatever we do. We want to turn that into a virtuous cycle. Things get better and better and better. Okay? So how do we do that? So we're looking for places to change, what we call leverage points. Intervene with a new idea, innovation. Okay? Something out of the box. But aligned with this idea now of sustainability. Not just the 3 C's, but the other aspects of it, the 3 driving forces. Once we have innovation, we have ideas, we've got to get people to support it, to buy into it, right? And that's the 4th S. Okay, the strategy. And then commit all the stakeholders into working together. Because you're not going to do anything, whether it's sustainability or any strategic plan, unless everyone's moving in the same direction. They agree with the goal and they work together, not pulling and pushing. Okay, so our other tool is called the compass. It's a metaphor. You know, the compass is a tool for orienting, going from point A to point B so you don't get lost. Right? The compass is no good without a map. That's where indicators come in, right? It's coordinates, it's your coordinates. Where are we? Where do we want to go? You have your vision, all of those things. So north stands for nature. East is economy. South is now society. And west is human well-being, which is a little bit different in society in that society is the collective system of variables. Aspects. Whereas well-being is about you, yourself, as an individual in the company. What are my aspirations? What are my concerns? What makes me happy? What makes me feel self-respect? My relationships, all of those things. Of course, a lot of overlap with society, but we tend to kind of subsume the individual a lot of times. So kind of pushing up. So the compass is designed to accommodate a lot of differences, cultural differences, sectoral, geographic, and it's also, we been working over the last 5 years to make sure it interfaces with the ISO 26000, which is the leading guidelines. And it can be used to do a lot of things. Build visions, manage stakeholders, invite stakeholders. Who should we invite? Okay, based on this lens. Creating sustainability index and being able to assess where are we in regards to these key things that define what sustainability is to us. We have some principles. It's a set of core guiding principles. So for nature, physical and biological limits of the earth must be respected. For economy, human societies and communities and organizations need functioning economies, provide their needs and support their aspirations. The society principle is that social systems can be organized in a way that promote equity, fairness, resilience, and opportunity for all. And lastly, the well-being. The right to be safe, to have access to those things, healthcare, education, a good job, a purposeful work, okay? Opportunity for self-expression, self-development, and a quality of life, whatever that is defined in that society. And then there's the integration principle, because all those are still separate, right? So all 4 dimensions of this compass are interconnected in a web of cause and effect relationships. So you can't see them separately. They're interdependent on each other. So the compass itself, this tool, is grounded in the science of system dynamics, the way we process the ISIS. And in recognition of this principle, governance and management systems should strive to achieve optimal results across all 4. Not one at a time. It's not, okay, we work on our environment first and our economy first, and when that's done, we're a good, profitable company, then we'll worry about our environmental footprint. Okay, which is often the case, especially with SMEs. You know? Okay, so a taste. You ready to do something? You don't have to move around or anything. So I want to give you a little hands-on with the ISIS and the compass. So we have 3 tools that I'm going to play around with you, or introduce with you and let you play around with. You've already met the ISIS method, the compass, and the third is what we call the pyramid. The pyramid is really just a physical 3-dimensional structure, but it actually is a really good team-building process. When you're thinking about how to get people to be on the same channel, to work together, build trust, commitment together, and work in the same direction towards the same goal. Okay, you can see what the ISIS, what's happening, systems tells us, and lets us try to answer why those trends are happening. Innovation, what changes can we make to change those system dynamics? How can we accomplish those changes is our strategy, and then action. What we call the capstone agreement is how we're going to actually put that into action, work together. So here's your scenario. I had to give you a scenario, and I was thinking what would be best with such a diverse group. Okay, I thought, oh, maybe we could do a banking scenario, or maybe big food, agricultural food distributor. I'm like, it'll be difficult for people to think as an employee in that. And I think everyone stayed at hotels. So even though you don't work in the hotel industry, I think just by being a guest, you understand hotels more than anything else. So we're going to use that scenario. So we're going to use Phuket. This is not a real hotel. There's no New Millennium Hotel Phuket. But let's say it's a 5-star hotel, and it's established itself as a trendy, say, eco-friendly eco-resort for singles, young couples, and families. For these guests, environment, social ethos, and practice are both ingredients in their decision to stay in the property, okay, and their overall experience as well. Now, the CEO would like to go a step further. He wants our hotel to be the first really genuinely sustainable hotel in Phuket, and not just about ourselves, actually affect the industry at large. We want to be a leader within the hotel industry of integrated sustainability, not just on our environmental footprint, but also in terms of our economic practices, our social engagement, responsibility, and it's about our guests and employees, how we treat them. So you're all a member of this new sustainability team. And our goal in the next 40 minutes is to come up with some ideas for the hotel to really have an integrated sustainability model. Now this is just our first meeting, so I think these are just our candidate ideas of what we're after. Okay, so we're going to start with the compass, what we call pyramid level 0. First of all, is everyone okay with the scenario? Okay. Okay, so what we call level 0 is the foundation. Every structure needs a solid foundation, otherwise it falls down. And for our ISIS method, the foundation with the compass is we have a vision. We understand what sustainability, what is our working definition of sustainability and for a hotel in Phuket. What does it mean to us? What future outcomes do we want to see? What principles or values will we work under and as? Okay, and who are our stakeholders? Who do we need to be thinking about and talking to, listening to, and addressing? So we're not going to go into all of that. We don't have time. But to give you a little taste, I'm going to ask you to brainstorm from 4 compass points, and I'm going to quickly just break you up by the room. Some materiality issues for this hotel. And what we mean by material issues include topics or issues that have a direct, indirect impact on the organization's ability to create, preserve, and erode economic, environmental, and social value for itself, for our hotel, and the stakeholders in the society at large. Pam, can you help me out? Will you guys, 3 of you, be nature? It's okay. And you guys are the team from economy. Okay? 4 of you. And 3 of you from society. Okay, so you're thinking from the society hat, and you guys well-being. It's okay? Alright, so 3 for nature, society. So what I want you to do is think about a hotel in Phuket. You want to be this really model of sustainability. Okay? From your hat, you're the nature hat, economy hat. So you guys think about, you're coming from departments in the company, in the hotel. You might be the EHS, head of EHS, or you might be working on environmental education for the guest. Okay, you might be the naturalist, or you might be an NGO partner, right? Like WWF will partnership with your hotel. So you can invite it. Okay, for economy, you might be the accounting department, marketing, sales, all of those things. Okay. Competitiveness, I don't know what all departments they might have. You guys, the social side, right? So maybe you have a social contribution or a CSR department manager. Okay, you have someone who deals with government relationship, government affairs, community affairs. Okay. You guys are the HR, employees about employees and guests. So guest relations, HR, maybe the recreation team, that sort of thing. Okay, food, beverage, health, guests, quality, nutrition. Okay, so come up with, let's say, three issues you think are really priority for this hotel to be a model of sustainability. And 1 issue per post-it note. Just write 1 issue per post-it note. Yeah, just an issue of name. 1 word or 2 words or whatever it needs to be.
What is the issue?
Go back. Vision is to be the best model of a sustainable hotel. Okay, that's the vision. We want to be the #1 hotel. And it's not just the environment. It's about our social side, well-being of our guests, and also our profit.
how do you market this sector?
Sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you about 2 more minutes. Let's come up with 3 materiality issues. You guys have 3? Everyone have 3? Yeah. 2 minutes.
But then the other thing is that this
Time out, sorry. So, 3 issues. Okay, but we're going to now move on. You can still be thinking if you don't have 3 exactly. Okay, so that's our foundation. We have this vision from the CEO, and we've asked the teams to identify our materiality issues around this vision. Okay? But now we need to think about, okay, what is our baseline? What's going to be our map for orienting ourselves toward this #1 hotel, sustainable hotel in tech? So we need indicators, we need metrics. What are we going to look at to give us information on what's happening in the system? Okay. So we're not, for this workshop, we're not going deep into what indicators are. But in the longer workshop, we'd spend a lot more time on indicators, because they're very crucial and they're not so easy if you haven't worked with them before. But basically, indicators are measurements and sources of information feedback to determine the current status and changes in conditions that are relevant to your issues and the goals and objectives. Okay? So I want you to come up with one indicator, one metric. What are you measuring? What's going to give us information about that particular issue? 1 per issue. So 3 metrics in the next 5 minutes. And write it on the same post-it note underneath the issue. Something like this. water pollution and surface water sources is one of our issues too. So a number of surface water sources that meet class 2 standards, which is good, are going. So something like this. From a hotel, I'm thinking you have canals, prawns around my hotel. They smell. It can smell very bad. My guests can community getting sick. Okay, but also, even though we treat our waste water before we put it into out in the ocean or whatever, we want our water to be nice because our guests are swimming in that. We don't want to be closing down the beach because the Ministry of Health says the water level is dangerous. Then our guests are going to say, why we stay in this hotel? Right? But it's not our fault. It's the community. So there's a connection, right? Because the canal goes to the ocean and then drift down toward our beach. So we still have to worry about that. So come up with 3 metrics, or one for each of your. Well, no, I'll let you present first, and then we'll check in. So maybe I'll have nature. One of you guys come up here and tell us what your issues indicators are. Or you can sit there. Okay. If you guys can give attention to our nature colleagues, our environmentalists.
For nature, we think about the issue. The first one is about energy. We use a lot of energy because we have a lot of customers or even our employees itself. So our indicator, we indicate from the measurement from the government that say, for example, the cost of the energy, for example, and the number of electronic appliances in our hotel.
So you're looking at number of appliances or looking at consumption of kilowatt hours?
Correct.
Okay. But you can look at both because you want to look at efficiency, right? If your appliances are eating electricity, if you invest in more energy efficient appliances, but you need to look at consumption, Okay. What else?
Waste management.
Okay.
Actually, the same thing. We think about the amount of it for average. For example, how to reduce this kind of waste.
Okay. So what would you measure about if that was your? Let's say we wanted to reduce our waste. We want to deal with waste in a sustainable way. You know, Phuket has a waste issue. Where does the waste go?
For example, we may average. We see the standard average, and then we think about how to get into the standard average the first step, and for the next step, how we go further.
Okay, but what do you measure? That's my big question. Amount generated?
Amount.
Okay, so amount of waste that leaves your hotel every week or every month or so forth. Because where is it going? It's either going to the incinerator, and Phuket, they burn it. It contributes to emissions and carbon, right? Or it goes to a landfill. The landfill is not in Phuket, it's in another province, which creates issues and it costs you money. No one taking your garbage for free, right? So the more you reduce, the less you pay.
So what if we think about reuse?
Yeah, that's the solution part. Right now, this is where I noticed that we have human nature. We see the issue, we want to start putting solutions before we actually know what the situation is. That's not bad. Indicators help us start making solutions. We should not try to leapfrog understanding the system first and the dynamics. Because what we don't want to happen, and what happens with linear thinking, is that we see a problem, we come up with a solution, then maybe some time goes over, and our solution becomes the next problem. Because we haven't seen it as a holistic way. We've only seen it in a linear cause and effect way. A really good case in point is in the bottom of the pyramid. We've heard empowering people at the bottom of the pyramid, the poorest people, right? We want to improve their life, and we want to have them as customers, right? That's the whole gist of the bottom of the pyramid. improve their lives, empower them, but make them our customers. This is the business aspect. Okay, so many companies have done this, like Unilever and others. So they want to improve the health, they want to improve ownership of small businesses. So they started thinking about, okay, instead of selling big bulk shampoo and detergents and medicines and candies, we'll sell them in little bitty packets, right? And so a person could buy those little packets because poor people don't have big, they don't buy big bulk, they buy per use, right? A little packet of shampoo, a little packet of detergent, right? And of course, that empowers a person to set up a kiosk, start their own business, and sell those little packets of medicines and candies and detergents. You ever gone to these communities where they wash clothes? All those packets. So you saw one problem, which is economic and health. Well, you just created an environmental problem that they didn't have. It made it worse. Now their water stream or their whatever is just littered with all these little packets. Okay, so that's what we don't want to happen. We don't want our solution to one aspect create a problem in another area. That's not sustainable, it's not just balance. Yeah. Okay, so your third one?
The third one, we think about perception from our stakeholders. Is the issue, and we think the indicator, how we, maybe this one we conclude to the next step. We think how to measure percentage of involvement from our stakeholder, from example, our vendor, or even our
Okay. That's okay, that's good. But because you're coming from the nature compass, you need to make it more towards your, maybe your environmental footprint or your stakeholder engagement into your environmental solutions. You want to reach out to others, build partnerships, and include maybe the community in environmental solutions. So your metric is actually the level of engagement, right, and perception that they have of that. So that's good, yeah. But just because you're coming from nature, I mean, you're not naturally the nature stakeholder. But if you were the hotel, I would invite you under that compass point because that is your job. That is your interest. Okay, you might be an NGO partner who we work with, who we invite. So you automatically fall into that thinking. Of course, you guys have just randomly placed you, so you don't, that hat that I gave you doesn't fit naturally. So that's okay. All right, good. That's nice. Economy. Anyone want to quickly?
Okay. So I think mostly one of the general themes that we had at first was marketing issues. So things like customer segmentation, who are the customers, what things do they want, and also like how do we get like different monthly promotions, marketing channels to access this segment. So for the indicators, mostly the common KPIs like sales, let's say customer review, positive review, or occupancy rate. What else? So I think those are for the marketing aspect. TripAdvisor feedback. Another aspect was about if we have to have reduced consumption in a luxury setting. How can we do that, but also still meet the needs of the customer's expectation?
Yeah.
So things like if we have to make new facilities, retrofit old facilities, maybe have new activities like bicycle tour, gardening, cooking, whatever. But then also there have to be costs associated with those. So also looking at what do we need to build or do, like what are those expenses? And indicator for that would be like customer satisfaction if we're providing those services or those.
So you can look at return on investment too.
ROI, yeah, and
recovery time. Okay, especially if you think about you're retrofitting, you said you're building buildings, you might want to look at energy efficiency, right?
Right.
So maybe you want financing. You work with ESCO. Okay, what is the ROI on those? what's our investment? Okay, how much does it matter to our guests? You said you have the perception surveys in terms of marketing. Okay, so.
And I think the third category was about if we have to embed this into the sustainability into the business operations. So things like staff, how do we engage the staff? How do you train them about this? Like not only just to respond to the customer, but for themselves to.
How do you get love on the factory floor?
Exactly. So we also talk about like those expenses related to that and location of the place. How easy is it for customers to get there? I think more along the lines of doing it. How do you do it? And then mostly the profitability aspect.
So your indicator would be maybe we'd have to have a criteria or something, but looking at the capacity of our employee base to do this. Okay, so where are we at? How many employees in different departments have had this type of training? Okay, what percentage of the department? Okay, those type of indicators. So we know. All right, what is our level of our employee base?
Maybe like a pre-assessment, like readiness, and then after the training, a post-evaluation, and a continuous model to keep it within the business, not just like a one-time or a short-term thing, but a long-term.
And that links to what you guys talk about, engaging people in perception, even employees and those stakeholders. We need to find out what do they want, how do they think we can improve our environment in the hotel, and that sort of thing. So they have ownership, right? Feel a sense of, okay, investment. All right, good, very nice. Society?
Yeah, we come up with three actual issues after a long discussion, a lot of issue raising, but we finally choose the top three.
Okay.
The first one I think is very fundamental for the society aspect, that is about the community relations, because we cannot live without the community supporting us or us having a community social license to operate.
Yep.
And that's the actual issue. The performance indicator of that one is we just choose the final bottom line, that is the community satisfaction, that we're going to just every year that during the engagement we're gonna just try to do the satisfaction story to see that what they think of us and what should be improved.
Okay.
And the next one, because of in Phuket, I think that a lot of us have heard about the Phuket have a lot of big issue, especially for the land issue, for the luxury hotel. So I think we just choosing the transparency and the anti-bribery and corruption as another material issue, because we have to deal with the government. And the indicator that we choose is because there's only one, so we choose just the lacking, the final bottom line as well, that is the breach against our code of conduct. That is supposed to be include a lot of requirement about to dealing with the government, using of agents, or a lot of things like even the due diligence. And these two, I think that is it's going to take us to be a good level, but it's not sufficient to take us to the visions that we have to be the best, to be a role model. So the last one that we think of is about the material issue is to create a difference. For every of our guests that's coming here, they have to feel that they can make a difference for this world. I think it's a very big one, either not quite tangible, but we think that is very important to take us to that goal. So the indicator that we have set up, I think is quite interesting, and there's no one number that can measure it. So I think that we propose to be the criteria that the guest that's going to stay at our hotel, we're going to have a criteria, something like the criteria like when they come here, they have a chance to do the CSR activity, the local, or how many per spending that one guest have on the local economy. So we think that there's a set of criteria, and if the guest meets the criteria, then we count.
So you can measure the level of meeting criteria of your guests.
Yeah, it's going to be something like a subset indicator that's going to define what this guest is meeting our aspiration of make them feel different. They can create difference.
Okay, Okay, because that's going to be tied to your strategies, right?
Yeah.
So how many guests, percentage of our guests who follow that is going to tell us how effective our strategies are getting them to follow us. Okay, lastly, well-being.
Want to raise environmental awareness among staff first, then expand to the clients. It will create sense of sustainability for staff by engaging environmental awareness into their routine, making it more of a lifestyle than duties. Not only environmental awareness would intervene with their jobs, it is also rewarding to them. First point, starting with we would create a recreational area for
Okay, can I knock you a little bit? Because you're leapfrogging now to innovation. You're going to innovation, which is okay. There's indicators and issues. But right now, I just want us to, okay, what would you measure to know what's happening in that before we talk about your ideas for solving it? So what would you measure? What is your issue? Employee?
Employees lack of sense of sustainability and
Okay,
environmental
so
awareness.
what kind of information would give you an understanding of where you're at, what's the trend in that? Because your ideas are good, I just want you to hold them for a while, because that's the innovation level of the ISIS. But we need to know actually what's going on first. Yeah, but we naturally want to solve things. But as I mentioned, we want to kind of maybe put the brakes on that a little bit so we see the whole system connections so that we don't create a problem if we come up with a solution but we haven't thought about how it connects these other three areas. Okay, because we might say this, but where is the budget coming from? Okay, how does that affect time of the employees if we're from their normal jobs, things like that. Okay, so what would you measure for that as a metric? An indicator? Could be again, it could be tied to this similar amount of training that they've had in this area.
Well, as we're approaching in the lifestyle, we're making the whole routine.
You could measure their practices based on certain, again, criteria. Like, this is what we consider a sustainable employee profile. So, who does that? At what level do you do that? Okay, we find out that most of it at the beginning, that most of our employees don't do that. So that become what you said, your solutions. So what we have an indicator that's telling them that we're going, okay, are those programs that you just started to outline, are they making any difference or are they just a abyss, black hole of money and time? We have to have a clear indicator that's saying to the management that this program is worth our investment. It's working. Or if it's not working, we as a team are saying, okay, what do we need to change in terms of our strategy and program because it's not making a difference. Our employees are not car sharing or motorcycle sharing to go to work. They're still using tons of plastic every time they go shopping. Okay, they're smoking in the parking lot. That's one of the things that we're looking at for health. Okay, they're eating lots of junk food. Their kids eat, it depends on what our defining thing that we're trying to say is sustainable way. So we want to know what is it we're measuring to give us that feedback. Well, what is the metric? Not the method, but actually the data. What data are we looking at? Is it, like I said, is it adoption of these behaviors and what percentage or what level of adoption do they do these things? And we, of course, we measure the survey, our interview, and we have a forum. we're going to collect qualitative or quantitative data, and that's going to give us information. And then we're going to tie our solutions to those data. So what should we do? How can we get them to eat better food, our employees themselves?
Well, actually, that's one of our points. We're going to change the whole system of eating growing plants. We're going to, one of our points is like go organic, which includes providing organic food for guests with mostly homegrown, as much homegrown as possible. And
okay, so good. Let me stop you there. So then you would have to talk to these people, right? Right? The economy side. They said that you had an indicator about guests, right? What do guests want? Do they want organic food? And what type of organic? Does it taste good or is it like eating cardboard? You know? So this is the system aspect. Okay, you said you want to change the whole system. You're in the HR department or you're in the employee well-being manager or whatever, guest relations. But I'm really going to link to these other ones. What indicator do you have? So you're going to ask them, what indicator? How does our change in information here affect your cost? Okay? Because if they're saying, our costs seem, the head of the department in the accounting side, our costs are going up in this area. And they complain to their staff. And then they complain to you and blame you because you pay more money for this organic food, right? And they say, do we really need it?
Food waste for fertilizers.
Okay, then you say, yes, we've reduced our cost on our waste disposal. By having a whole system understanding and having good indicators that link, we can defend people and get people to not blame us. Not say, oh, why are our costs going up? Okay? Well, this department is like, well, because the HR department is spending more money on this program. Okay, and then what are you going to say? If you don't know these other indicators, you can't say, well, yeah, we are spending money, but look where we're saving money. That's your argument back. So then they, okay, we see it as a whole system, not as these little isolated things that people will start blaming people on.
This whole organic system, the clients will feel they're going to make a difference by staying with us.
Yeah. So which is, I think, some of your criteria, right? Exactly. Good.
We also use organic detergents for laundry and cleaning. And partly we will try to maintain ourselves with food waste.
Okay.
And also, not only we provide organic food with homegrown, because I don't think it's going to be enough. We'll try to purchase from local farm to encourage farmers in the local to make organic food, and also to reduce petrol cost and transport food cost, and also reduce petrol.
All right. Very good ideas. Other two indicators, real quick.
I think the first one is about the sense of environmental awareness of the staff, and the second one, we provide a choice or provide a difference to the clients by go organic. And the third one, I think, was the well-being of the staff to create happiness and better work environment.
So, like a sense of team and
Yeah.
love to work at this hotel. So what's the indicator that will tell you that?
It's like we plan to set up the recreation.
Okay, that's the idea, but what's the indicator? Say we want to leapfrog to solution. What is the feedback that tells us that solution will work?
Yeah, we think we should suppose that's a really hard job have the issue with the well-being of the guests and staff. So we think there's not enough recreation area and working environment.
Okay, so tell me what you would measure.
We said the numbers of recreation area, maybe 0.
Okay. The number of
For
for the staff.
Yeah.
Okay. But you'd also need to say who uses it. How many staff actually use it? We put all this money into building, having these recreation, and actually staff are so busy. And the people are like, well, where are you going? I'm going to go work out. No, you have this to do. So because the other indicator, which is work-life balance, is totally out of whack. Right? Even though the hotel has put this money into, no one's using it. Okay, so you have to have really these connected indicators. That's a good one, yes. All right, so because of time, any thoughts about this? Is it easy? Not so easy. It takes, but the thing is, you're having the departmental experts or the stakeholders to work together to do this. It's not the consultant or the expert, right? Yes, you will need them to help guide and give you challenging like I'm doing. But we're talking about embedding sustainability requires ownership, engagement, right? So this is what we're doing, okay, in level 1, for multi-stakeholder team. Okay. Any thoughts on that? Any questions real quick? Because I'm going to kind of fly through so I don't keep you over time. Does it make sense? Any thoughts? Is it challenging? Does it not make sense? Do you see where we're going with this?
I wanted to explain more about indicators.
Okay. What particular is challenging?
Like,
indicators are super challenging, for sure.
yeah, because it's not so perfect definition, but it indicates.
Yes.
And it could be tangible or intangible, or could be like quite different.
Yeah, I mean, when we work with companies using this tool and method to build a blueprint, okay, literally we take 6 months, 4 to 6 months. We ask the company to build a team like this, about 25 people. We have to ensure release times and everything. So we have these compass teams. We spend 3-day workshop just on indicators because it's so important, and people don't really feel natural to doing it. So an indicator is really, the basic definition is information that tells us what's happening in the system so that we can respond. And just information, that's what it is. Now, in American English and English, there's actually a different definition of the word indicator. And as I've learned myself from working with different nationalities, when I say indicator to usually someone from the UK, and I ask, give me an indicator, they give me a target. Okay? We want 10% reduction in emissions. I said, no, well, what are you measuring? In American English, an indicator is the metric. It's the unit of emissions that's releasing. But in UK English, it's the actual target. Okay? It's what we're after. Whereas in American, we say that's our target. And the indicator is what gives us. But an indicator basically is a metric that's giving us information on the system condition. That system. You say employees' well-being system. So we need data to tell us which way is the trend.
So
Our employees
mostly
need
just information, not
just
that
information.
action.
No, action is something else. And this is where we make mistakes. We, as humans, tend to really want to just go ahead and solve a problem without knowing actually what is the scoping of the situation first. We have to sort of pull ourselves back because we have this tendency, let's just solve it. It's obvious, right? Yes, it's obvious but it's obvious in a linear way, right? That's why we have things in English we call side effects. We use the word side effect, right? There is no such thing. Everything is cause and effect. It's because of the scoping of the system. Everything outside of our boundaries of how we see the problem is a side effect. But it's not really. It's because our boundaries need to be wider. Then we have this other word. You ever said whoops? More like unintended consequence. I didn't mean for that to happen. Because it wasn't, oftentimes it's not in our viewfinder of problem solving. So, yeah, this is what is key about indicators. We need to define our system first and see what are the trends. Like, if you say, okay, we're a profitable hotel. Let's look at this year's profit margin. Great. Okay, we're profitable. Everyone's happy. But that's a snapshot. Let's look over the last 5 years. Have we been profitable? Yes, but actually our profitability is on the decline. So if we just say, yes, we're profitable here, without looking where is the trend going, then we might just say, oh, this just carry on business as usual. But actually, things are going down. And it's only when it gets below our little alarm bell that the CEO's like starts firing people or blaming people. But if you start seeing those things, you have good indicators, you can be proactive rather than reactive. And that's key to resilience, right? We talk about sustainability and resilience. Knowing information beforehand, acting before it becomes crisis. Yes.
I think for me, if I look at the 4 directions of the compass, I think for the natural aspect, the nature aspect, and the economic aspect, the indicators are more standard. I mean, there's more tools that already exist. There's language that people already have. But when you go to the well-being side or society side, I think it's less tangible. There's no, how do you value spiritual fulfillment? Like how can you measure personal security? So I don't know, maybe that's the issue that maybe some of the groups found. But I mean, for us, it's quite clear. Economic, okay, you know.
Standard. Well-being is a new thing. It's a new terminology. It's a new field in academia. It's new research. All trying to figure out how do you measure happiness.
I mean, even we know like adaptive capacity, but how do you measure that? Like, what is in that?
So a lot of the time it might be there's an overlap. We try to really emphasize there's not sharp edges between these compasses. You know, there's what we call ecotone. There's a gray area. So you might look at profit, but they're looking at my income. My monthly take-home income makes me happy. How much do I have after that paying all the bills that I can put in the bank? That will make me happy. So actually, an economic indicator for well-being can be, spiritual fulfillment. Do you have time to, or do you go to practice whatever religion you do? Do you have time to do that? How often do you do that? You know, do you feel better? What's your level of connection with your religion? If that's important for the culture that we as a company work in, that's Buddhist or Islamic culture or whatever, Hindu, and if we haven't accounted for that, then that culture is very strong in that aspect, then it's going to come back and backfire on us because we haven't addressed that. You know?
So, I mean, just some of the things, like, for example, if a company wants to increase well-being, they don't want their staff to be too tired, let's say. But then they have put like little sleeping pods, right? I mean, or something. So an indicator would be how often those are used or whether or not.
You don't want to use too much. This is where this is balancing, right? You have to see the whole picture and keep getting information and then not let it become a crisis. So you always have to monitor, but you have to have the good indicator first. It's so key. Then it's your system dynamics, which is this next part, which I'm not going to do. But let's say traditional indicators. Water, air quality, cancer rates, GDP. We measure them separately. We have experts who look at them separately. But how are these 3 related if we look at sustainability? Can you see a circle? GDP. Let's think China. We need to increase, we need 8%, 10% GDP, right? So lots of factories, lots of dirty cars, air quality going down. We see the news about Beijing or whatever. Okay, now we're in masks. Imagine what the respiratory issues are, cancer rates, which now you're losing productivity, people getting sick, don't go to work, healthcare costs. Then that's going to affect GDP. So you see this circle. That's a reinforcement feedback. Okay? So but we haven't usually looked at it that way. We look at them like isolated linear events. We need to start looking like this, right? This conversation we just started to have. So in this exercise, we don't have time. One of the first steps is just to physically look at things. Where do our indicators, after we've heard this presentation, have this discussion, where are they linked to? So we can think about building for our hotel an integrated sustainability indicator framework. One that now, hopefully, is starting to build clarity and relationship between different departments. Okay? This is where we talk about embedded. if I understand that what I want is related to what you're interested in, and that your job responsibility, your KPI, or whatever, really, when you talk about sustainability, links to mine. Yours is not going to work if mine is not working. You know, it's positive. So we start to feel a sense of, yeah, team. So we use this yarn, okay? And that's just the first step in building a system understanding. Systems take a while too, because I spent 16 years in education thinking reductionist and linear. So it's not easy to start us thinking in circles, even though for maybe Buddhist or Asian cultures, it's probably a little bit easier. Trust me, it is easier. When I work with Western people, they fight it. It's much easier to work with Asian participants, stakeholders. It comes more natural systems. Okay? So a system is just a discrete group of elements that work together. But there's some laws that bind them. Cause and effect, flows of energy, flows of materials, flows of information. All systems are designed by us based on what our idea of that system is. So there's no perfect system. And they all have a purpose. A system has a purpose. If it doesn't have a purpose, it's not a system. Like a pile of sand. It's just a pile of sand, and it's not, in a sense, it's not a system. There's not an interaction between those elements. And there's not a reason. But if I use that sand for something, okay, or a pile of rocks. What's the relationship with that rock and that rock and that rock? And what are they for? But if I put them in a fence, a rock wall, then there's an interaction. And if I just say, I build that rock wall and I take out this rock, is it going to affect the integrity of the whole wall? Yes. Okay, so system. Okay. So what we're trying to do is take these indicators and start to build a system understanding. Okay, based on information flows, decision controls, cause and effect. So we start to build system maps that look like that. Okay, out of your indicators. And then we want to look for the leverage point, as I mentioned, the place that then we can best introduce that new idea. Okay, which one is really going to have a big impact, but we don't have to put a lot of money into it. It's actually, because we don't have maybe a big budget or lots of capacity, but we want to make a huge impact. So we need to be strategic. So when we have our system, we start to understand the dynamics. Then we look, where's the best place to intervene, to change the dynamics toward the way we want it to go, our goal. So you could look at dense webs of connection. So where are all these strings connected to? Where do you see a lot of strings coming in? That could be a hub. If we do something there, it's going to have whole system effect. Okay? Maybe it's just the strength of that loop. There's going to be many loops in your system. Okay? Or maybe it's just like, okay, well, how do we change that? Just asking questions finds a good leverage point. Okay? If you look at from Denali Meadows, there's actually different degrees of impact and ease of intervening. Easy to change parameters, material stops and flows, balancing loops like thermostats. Much harder to change mindsets. And if you do this, you have huge impact. Right? And so this is showing you there's different places to intervene in a system. Some are harder and some are easier. But the easier ones usually have less impact. Just some examples of types of interventions at the different levels. By changing goals of our hotel, right? Our goal is to be zero waste hotel. So that changes everything. It changes how our kitchen works, how our catering business works, how our conference works. You know, that's going to change everything. The whole employee job responsibility. So we built these. I remember I worked with this one hotel in Indonesia, this eco resort. And they wanted to be this zero waste in 5 years. When we started talking to the kitchen staff, they were like, no, we're so busy already, we have to worry about composting and separating food and this, not going to do. They were rebel. So we sat down for half a day and built a system map with that kitchen staff so that they could identify how recycling waste and composting comes back to what they care about, which was their job security, the community well-being, because most of them are from the community, community, especially the waiters and the lower cooks. Looking at the market share of their hotel. So then they started saying, oh, okay, I understand why you want to do this. But it took walking through a system and building it step by step with them. Okay, so then we identify leverage points. What we do at the, third level, innovation, where you started, that's what you love. Right? So, okay, so what do we do now that we have the system sort of mapped out? This is brainstorming. Innovation, basically, ideas and exploitation of those good ideas. It's what we do at the leverage points. There's many types when we talk about sustainability innovations. New targets, new standards, new flows of information, like building teams of sustainability rather than a sustainability manager. Okay? New models and frameworks, from selling carpets to leasing flooring services. Right? It's a whole new business model. It has a huge impact. Okay? So these things. These are companies where sustainability really is embedded, where it's not bolt-on, but it becomes their business opportunity. And it's a solution. It's a solution to the challenges that we face. Like Walmart now has a sustainability index for all their suppliers. They have given them 2015 to meet their standards, or they lose contracts. So these are all suppliers in like China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and others. If they don't reduce and improve on human rights, their energy, they will not have a Walmart contract. That's whole system change. Okay? GE, they have a whole business unit, Eco-Imagination. It's all about solutions. Right? Starbucks, recently, I don't know if you heard the news. Starbucks is going to pay for the undergraduate degree for every staff. I'm sure I don't know all the ins and outs, but everyone who works at Starbucks, according to the news, will now be able to go to college, and Starbucks will pay the whole bill, whole tuition. That's huge. Okay? So many things, like Puma, they have come up now with the clever bag. Instead of having the shoebox, which you toss with the central bag, the big plastic central bag, they sell the shoe in the bag, which is actually a durable bag that you can use over and over. Just a little cardboard, okay? And that's it. So all their shoes now are going to be sold this way. That's a game changer on emissions, on waste, on people's idea of Puma. Okay? So for innovation, what you do is basically review your system map. What is your goal? What needs to change? What could you do at your leverage points? Discuss best practice, because there's already lots of stuff being done, right? So let's surface what is being done in our industry that's really good practice and well-being in nature and economy. And then for our situation, can we come up with something new? We're learning from those, okay? Then we have strategy. We have an idea as a team, right? We have this team and we have all these good ideas. We have 4 good ideas from 4 compass points, but we need to convince others. We need to convince the board, the CEO, okay, the other employees. So this is our strategy. So when we think of what we call innovation diffusion strategy, we have to think about the complexity or simplicity of the innovation itself, how it works. Can people understand it? Can we show impact? How does it work? Is it simple? Is it compatible? But you also have to think about the cultural context that you're introducing this thing into. So there's 2 aspects. So we have this equation. It's a social marketing equation we call the Gilman's equation. N minus O has to be greater than CC. So when you think of your strategy, you need to understand what is the perceived value of your idea. The other people, your target, how do they think about it when you say, wow, we should do this. We should do this for the employees. Do they really love your idea? How do they value it? If it's like, we need to come up with a strategy to promote, to increase the value in their mind. We also have to compete against business as usual, the old way, current way. Do they really value it? Is it like their sacred cow? Of course, it's like they're holding it so tight, and we're going to have a hard time to get them to switch. Okay? So we need to somehow come up with a strategy to get them to see that that's not so great. It might be case studies, it might be information to say, actually the old way is costing us a lot of money, market share, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is CC, what we call cost of change. You ever had this, you say to your friend, or your spouse, let's go to Phuket or Bali this weekend, take off, da, 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 da. And, yeah, that's a great idea, but I have a lot of work this weekend. We don't have the budget. So they like your idea, but there's a cost of change, perception-wise. So that often is the case. They like our idea, they see it's better the old way, but our staff don't have the capacity to implement. We don't have the budget, we don't have the department for that. So what you have to think about is how can I reduce their perceived cost to make the switch? So maybe we don't have the capacity, but we could find an NGO partner who does come in and do training for us, or we can find matching fund from GIZ, So we're thinking about how we reduce the cost of change in their mind. People would have to say yes. So that's the last S of the ISIS. And we have to do all of these at the same time. And then the capstone agreement. So as a team, we've gone through this process. 1 week, 3 months, whatever. Built relationships, we've made proposals, okay? We're hoping that sustainability is being embedded now. But a capstone proposal is, okay, you have an idea from the nature side. From the economy, you have 4 proposals, okay? So each team will make a proposal, especially to the other teams. What you're trying to get is consensus to move forward. So you're going to make a proposal how your idea and your initiative will support the other 3 in what they want. So you'll be looking at what actions will you take, how your initiative will support the company's sustainability, who will you work with, how your initiative will support the other corporate initiatives, and how you will monitor. And then these are just some examples from past client doing this. But then at the end, you need to develop a single capstone agreement. It's like, okay, we agree to work together towards this. Okay, so that's the accelerator. Part B. Any quick questions? We only have 1 minute. 2 minutes. Can I have 2 more? How are you feeling? This, and interest or comprehension? Switch. Any comments or thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I think it's good the way that you break down the step of thinking.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we doing is something like just go along and without knowing how to break it down and to let other people know. I think it's very important to bring others along with us who are working in the field of sustainability or other things. Yeah.
Do you think it goes toward the goal of what the name of this workshop is about? Do you think it would lend itself to helping to do that?
I think that if we set a really clear goal and include the sustainability, and then we just apply this model, it can be embedded.
Rather than bolt-on sustainability, we can embed sustainability. Yes.
I was thinking about like, okay, you can embed it within your bounds of your own organization and maybe your stakeholders, shareholders, but what about like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with EcoCycle or TerraCycle?
Yeah, TerraCycle,
okay.
yes.
So there's criticism on that there's
worm composting.
It originated from worm composting, but then they also did like buying products or getting people to send them products which are non-recyclable, and then they try to turn those into another product that they can sell. Upcycling, right? So, but then there's a criticism on the bigger picture. So if you're looking at the system, you're still accepting the system of waste generation.
So you haven't stopped the generation.
So right. So then his company is looking at how do we upcycle these products or reuse these products more effectively because they cannot be recycled. But in the overall system, it hasn't really met that goal.
Yeah, so that's only seeing that one aspect, the in-pipe solution, right? Not the source solution. So you have to work with other partners, government. So that's means that you have to have a wider partnership and see the whole system from all as upstream to downstream. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as Singapore. Singapore focuses on waste, you know, all in pipe. But Singapore's economy is based on consumption. You know, I work with Singapore government, always about anti-litter, anti-litter. You know, it's about get people to throw in the bin, get people to recycle. But the whole idea of Singapore, shop, shop, shop. Amazing Singapore. So it's contradictory, right? It's the same with the last government's car policy, right? Traffic, we want to solve traffic, but there we're going to give you a rebate if you're a first-time car buyer, right? So 370 new cars that from first-time car buyers came over Bangkok streets in 1 year. Of course, traffic's going to get worse. So it's just neutralizing any other policy you had over here because you don't see it as a systemic entity. You see things compartmentalized, siloed. So that's the argument for a system approach. So let's say, my last piece, 1 minute. If you were to take a full course, which SASN is offering in November, which is 3 days, you would get a whole host of the tools, not just these tools, there's a few more. Amoeba, which is about change management, change process. Okay, it's a metaphor, amoeba. Okay, and you look at roles and develop strategies based on who plays different roles in the change process. And then the stratosphere is a strategic planning tool, 360. So they work together, or they can be done separately. There's varying levels of the ISIS, from beginner to actually what we were kind of doing, and what the workshop kind of looks at trying to train people on intermediate level. Okay, and then there's advanced, which, sorry. This is actually a breakdown. You can look at this if you want the slides. So also in the training, we look at case studies, real corporate case studies that we use these tools with. And what has been the challenges, what were the key things to success, what came out as a result, and how to improve. Okay. So we worked with, especially in Indonesia, 6 sectors. From textile, banking, mining, pulp and paper, to power production. So we have these case studies. And recently we worked with Phuket to develop Phuket's indicator report, okay, which the governor endorsed recently. And this is the training. And final, any comments or questions?
So you did both in English and Thai?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So, any last minute or questions or something that you want to bring up? Was it clear or?
Who is suitable for this kind of training?
Who is suitable? I think you need to be a bit advanced. You can't be like, totally, I don't have any idea of sustainability. You don't have to be expert. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about what is sustainability. It's more about mind. It's really going to be getting deep into the tools, not a lot of theory. Where the theory and practice will be deepest is in indicators and systems. Those are the 2 hardest levels. So that's where most of the time in the workshop is spent. And then innovations, we have a process and a method. But of course, people can be creative. They just need to have the right process, the space, and that environment to create new ideas. Okay.
Please hop in we have all of you have a questionnaire about this workshop. So please give us your feedback.
Okay, so thank you very much. Good idea. Sure. Great. You brought up the issues. Thank you for doing that. Because I think you generate a discussion that we need.
Ladies and gentlemen, another quick announcement. At 12, we also have a luncheon talk by Rita Yesuwan, who is the CEO of Public Company Limited. A number of you visited there a couple of months ago, but the chairman's coming to give a talk today. That's on the 5th floor, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
English is American English. We use it in our method in American English. So there's a cultural difference. Anyone would like a PDF of this? So you will get exactly We'll send you. Okay.
This is great.
ไปเช็คอีเมลอีกทีปะตรงยูเซอร์ว่าถูกถูกนะ
This is especially relevant. There's a navigation, what's necessary.
What's that? Join. I'd like to, but actually I'm heading back to Sydney this evening, and I'm not sure if I'll be back.
Really?
But